Well, welcome again to Down to Earth but Heavenly Minded podcast. I'm your host, Irv Rish. Let me do a few changes here, and we are definitely on the air. And I think I have another image yet. Well, if you remember the last podcast, if you tuned in, it was about war, and I'm going to continue on with that same subject. And I know that I'm going to talk a little bit more about the military than I am about war. But I do want to start this off with a photo. Let me just switch scenes here. Okay. This is my brother Jerry. My brother Jerry fought Second World War. He was on the beaches of Normandy in that invasion, and he's seen a lot of action. Jerry was quite a soldier. He had a lot of war stories, but you had to try to pry it out of him. It was things that happened that he just didn't want to talk about. And I can kind of understand that. He says when you fight a battle at a distance, when you're shooting mortars into oncoming troops, he says it isn't like hand-to-hand combat. He said when he was on the beaches, he says when you run a bayonet through a guy and look at him right in his face, he said it really leaves an impression on you. And I believe that. I believe that it really affects a person. Well, Jerry himself got wounded. I think he got a bayonet pushed right through his side. And he got Purple Heart. He got other medals too. So Jerry was a hero in my book. Well, I got another photo here. This is him in a sailor. Of course, you can't make out the sailor. This was an old picture, and it got damaged over the years. This was taken in Rome in 1944. Like I say, I was really proud of my brother. He really gave his all for his country. And so I just really want to dedicate these podcasts to him. He'd be 103 right now, as I said in my first podcast. He was about 20 years older than I was. With that said, I'm just going to move on to another photo. This was my Uncle Pete. The little guy that he's holding, that's me. So you can see how long ago this one was taken. Taken quite a while ago, too. Yeah, he served in the military, too. Proud of all my relatives that gave their time to save this country from all the evil that's out there. Well, this was my dad and myself when I was home on leave after I don't remember which. I think I was home from basic at a 30-day leave. As you can see, I actually had 2 stripes. I was an airman second class. Didn't last long. I lost them. Got them back, lost them. I was one that got in a lot of trouble. Well, there's my mom. And I know my mom was proud of me. I got to kind of smile a little bit because this light jacket that I got on, that's a 24-inch waist. I'm a little bit bigger right now. Why don't we try about a 42, 44, I think. Yeah, I've kind of grown a little bit. Well, I enjoyed the military, even though I got in a lot of trouble. But there hit a point where after re-enlisting once, I had enough and I wanted to get out. So I got out. This might have been taken while I was at Dias Air Force Base in Abilene. Maybe it wasn't after basic. Well, I know here's where we were shipping back. And I think this one was taken when I was home on leave from basic because I was going back to Dyess Air Force Base back in Texas. I spent 27 months in Texas. So, well, I'm going to switch screens one more time. I'm going to go to a full screen. This is just a few pictures that I had taken down in Lackland Air Force Base. This was in 1955. I was 125 pounds. I went into service. I enlisted when I was 16. When I got on troop train, I think I turned 17. And I think it was in September. And I turned 17 in August, as I remember. Well, let me just go through a few pictures. Yeah, these were some more down in basic training. Now, this picture was taken on Iwo Jima in 1958. In the last podcast, I talked a little bit about Iwo Jima and all the lives that were lost. 70,000 lives lost taking that island. Well, this was an old school bus we had, and you can see it probably was about 55, 56, something like that. It was a Chevy. But anyway, I drove that around, taking people to different places. Also drove a staff car. I drove every piece of equipment they had there, heavy equipment and all. I was a dispatcher. I was kind of a one-man motor pool is what I was, except for the mechanics. Well, these were back in Lackland again, in San Antonio. Just some of the pictures. Some of the guys I went into service with. Arnie, Elmer Leslie, and that's one of the cook boys behind there, but Elmer, there's a story that goes with Elmer. Let me try to explain what it is. Elmer and me, well, actually, we got into some trouble together, and we had to go before the judge, and I'll try to get a little more into that later, but we were going to enlist together. We were going to go in the Navy, and we were both living in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We were going to do our basics down in by Chicago there, Great Lakes. Well, it turns out that Elmer and me went hunting one day, and we had an accident. He basically shot me. We were out hunting with bow and arrows, and he shot an arrow down a ways and broke the tip off. I didn't know. Shot the arrow back in my direction. I threw my hands up. Arrow hit me right in the hand. Didn't go through because there was no tip on it, but I really got mad. I said, "You shot me, you shot me." Well, I kind of broke off friendship with him at that moment, and I went down, I enlisted in the Air Force, thinking that Elmer was going to enlist in the Navy, and it turned out that he did the same thing I did, so we ended up spending basic together. And Elmer went his way, and I went my way after basic, and I didn't see him again until one day on my way over to Japan. I ran into Elmer in Hawaii. Yeah, he was at the airport, and I was just in transit, and they were refueling, and they let us off the plane. Went in the cafeteria to get something to eat, and there sat Elmer. Oh, we had a good old time, talked a lot. Ended up catching up on old times, and he went his way, and I went mine again. Well, I was on R&R from Iwo Jima. I went to Johnson Air Base over in Japan, and lo and behold, I was out on a strip, bar hopping, and I ran into Elmer. He was in Japan. And so we did some more catching up. And boy, there's some war stories I could tell you about Elmer and me and the trouble we got into. I'm not going to go into that, but Elmer was a real good friend, and I just wanted to share that with you. Well, moving on, that's me in Lackland. This was taken on Iwo Jima. They found these Buddhas all over the island. The Japanese, when they were there, they set up these Buddhas. That was their god. Kind of sad, praying to a stone. Well, Here's another little story, quick. It was taken to me in 1958. Sitting at the back of this trailer. If you remember my last podcast, I talked to you about those rats that were as big as cats. I lived in this old trailer. We had Quonset huts, but this was a tropical island. When you're with guys in your close, there's sweating, there's perspiration and the odor. I wanted to get away from it, so I stayed in this trailer by myself. I had a bunk up in the front, and I had my dispatch desk right by the window on the side. So that was kind of the place I lived 10.5 months while I was there. But one night, this door swang open. It's a screen door, and I used to leave, and the inside door, I think I even took it off. It was always hot down there. It was right on the equator. But anyway, I heard the door open and close and slam shut. And I could reach the desk lamp from my bed, and I turned the light on. And here was one of those great big rats that had come in and was standing right in the middle of the floor between me and the way out. I didn't like that idea. Well, what had happened is I drank coffee and I had cream for my coffee, and I had left a creamer sit on the corner on the floor by the desk leg, and it must have soured and it must have drew this rat. Well, anyway, I picked up a paperweight that was on a desk and I threw it at him. And I missed him, of course, but I spooked him enough to where he turned and he headed for the door. Well, there was no way he could get out because the door was closed. But that didn't stop him. He went right through that screen. Well, the screen was probably rotten from the heat down there and all the tropics. So anyway, he got out and I had to replace the screen. But that was my experience with one of those big rats down there. So, well, this was taken on the top of Mount Suribachi. I actually hit my heavy weight while I was in the service. I was about 185 pounds when I got home from Iwo Jima. I don't know what I was on here, but I wasn't at 125 pounds anymore. Okay, here's that trailer from the side, and you can see the dispatch window right up here. That's the window that I gave trip tickets out to, and my bunk was up in here. It was kind of leaning a little bit, but that way I wouldn't roll off the bed anyway. I'd roll onto the bed. But anyway, that was my living quarters. Yeah, see, these were the Quonset huts where most of the guys stayed. So, again, it was Lackland. Now, we're back to the same pictures that we saw before. So I'm going to just stop that one and go back to the original photo here. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about when I enlisted. And I'm not going to make this a long one. I'm just going to tell you that when I enlisted in a service, let me see if I can get one of those back. Yeah, well, I'll just leave this one up here. Anyway, when I enlisted in the service, I remember getting on that troop train, and it was one of those slow trains, stopped at every little town all the way from Milwaukee all the way to Texas, and the big ones too. Well, I guess I was in a hurry to get down there. I was anxious to see what service was like. But once I got into basic, I wanted to get on that train and come home again. I tell you, it wasn't a fun time. It was, a lot of calisthenics. And I was in trouble, like I said, a lot. Pulled a lot of KP, kitchen patrol. And I'm going to tell you, I got to be an expert at washing pots and pans, peeling potatoes. Anyway, I did go AWOL once. I got a 3-day pass and headed home. You're only supposed to go about 150, and I think 50 to 150 miles on a 3-day pass. Well, I went about 1,800 miles, and I had no plans of going back. But I got picked up, and Well, they trusted me. They put me on another troop train, gave me some meal tickets, and sent me back, face court martial. So I ended up getting stockade time, but I did finally make it through basic. Like I said, I was stationed at uh, Abilene, Texas, a SAC base, Dyess Air Force Base. And I'm going to share a little bit of my time in the military, but I'm going to hold off and share that on my next podcast. So I just wanted to make this video just to kind of give you kind of an introduction to my entering the service, and I'll kind of pick up where I'm leaving off right now. So I hope you enjoy these little podcasts. I know that there's a lot of families out there where people have family that are in the military or was in the military, and I think they can relate to a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing. Military can be okay during peacetime, but wartime, it's not a pleasant thing. So my hat goes off to all those that are serving right now in the military. God bless you for doing that for us. And with that said, I'm going to end my podcast again. And till next time, have a great day. Lord bless. Bye for now.